Good afternoon, boys and girls. We have been talking about marine law. Of course, insurance part will come later part of your subject. But marine law basically is with regard to Merchant Shipping Act. Like I told you earlier, Merchant Shipping Act has got everything regarding safety of navigation, pollution, prevention of pollution of the seas, and also with regard to carriage of cargo. Like basically all countries, when they want to incorporate the IMO convention, they have to ratify the IMO, bring it to the country and to their ministry. Since we are basically Indian registered ships, we have to bring it to the notice of the Ministry of Shipping, and they will pass an ordinance and an act to that effect with regard to anything with regard to merchant ships. So today's topic is Carriage of Goods by Sea Act. This is basically when a ship carries a cargo from A to B. You may encounter bad weather, water may come on deck, water may go inside the cargo hold, cargo may get damaged. So then what happens? Now the shipper and the receiver both are at loss and they have to stake a claim. So when you stake a claim, again it has to go to a court. Like I mentioned, all the shipping matters are settled in Admiralty Court. In the court, they will refer to Carriage of Goods by Sea Act. So let us start basically with any subject regarding Carriage of Goods by Sea Act. Basically it depends on various type of ships. What are the types of ships we deal with which carries cargo? General cargo, which is normally nowadays is multi-purpose vessels which carry all types of cargo which can get damaged. Bulk carriers, cargo like mineral and grain. Mineral means iron ore, bauxite. Grain means soya, wheat, rice in bags. Project cargo or heavy lift vessels. Project cargo means you carry a cargo of various types of machinery consigned to one particular project. For example, metro rail project, the full consignment, maybe the metro project will go on for years, maybe 5 years, 3 years, depending on the project and how fast they do it. There should be a continuous flow of materials for the metro, starting from the drilling machine. Drilling machine is a very big machine, maybe the size of this room, plus other material required, mobile cranes, structures, containers, all that comes in a project car. That's why it's called project cargo vessel. Or heavy lift vessel, individual cargo like locomotives, coaches, heavy turbines, generator, power plants, even to the extent nowadays gantry cranes for the container port is being carried by project cargo vessels. Containers, container ships is carried. Containers, basically most of the cargo is protected because these containers are absolutely watertight, but you do get into cargo claims when these cargo fall into the water, which happens. Even like few days back, 270 containers fell off one of the mega carrier. It can happen. So all these claims has to be settled in a court, and based on what act? That is your Carriage of Goods by Sea Act. Other ships are also there, car carriers, refrigerated cargo vessel, timber vessel, cement carriers, all encounter some kind of loss which is not expected. They may happen and claims do come. These are all the types of ships which we have to know, because this claim is not just only for containers or for general cargo, for any type of cargo like I mentioned, bulk carriers. These are all the size of the ships, cape size, large carriers. Then these are all the ships. Bulk carriers look like this. The loading is done by loading up with the cargo chutes, which falls directly into the cargo. These are all the bulk cargo. This is the typical profile of a bulk carrier. This is a very large boat carrier, probably 200 to 300,000 dead weight. This is how the structure, how the ship looks like. Cargo hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Basically, any cargo claim, especially is settled in UK or Singapore, either by arbitration or mediation. The reason being all these courts are quite fast and the laws are very simple. The fines are paid and received. So all this jurisdiction for settlement comes in mostly in Singapore or UK or any other port the shipper and the consignee and the carrier wishes to. This is typical how the ship looks like, which I scrolled through since you are aware how it looks like, but you have got to know what we are dealing with. Unless you know how a ship looks like, these things cannot be settled in a court. And for information, all the lawyers who practice in admiralty courts related to cargo or ships basically have to have some kind of education, basic knowledge about ships. They do some kind of postgrad logistics course or Institute of Chartered Shipbroker course. So the lawyers have to be qualified. That's the reason most of the cases are settled in Singapore or UK. These are all the type of ships, general cargo. This is a project cargo vessel, typical stowage plan. This is the cargo plan. These are all the diamonds. Let me go through, let me get to the act straight. Numbers have changed now, 177, I don't remember how it is. Oh yeah, okay. Okay, with regard to Carriage of Goods by Sea Act, international terms and conditions. How did the Carriage of Goods Sea Act came into existence? There are 3 sets of rules which apply international transport. Carrier's exemption from liability, extent of carrier's liability to the shipper, shipper's responsibility. Carrier means the ship which carries the cargo. With regard to act or in a court, you argue mentioning ship as a carrier because it carries the cargo. And liability, who is responsible in case of fire, in case of ship sinks, in case cargo falls into the sea. So 3 sets of rules govern, which were incorporated to Carriage of Goods Sea Act by the respective governments. Hague Rules, it was the first one which came into picture, Hague Rules. Then the Hague Rules came into being when mostly we had general cargo ships. Then once the general cargo ships became very few, which became multi-purpose vessels, all these general cargo basically manufactured goods went into container ships. So the container ships came into being and the shipping technology went ahead at a very fast way. They thought now we should have a different rule now, which became the next one was Hague-Bisbee rules. Then Hague-Bisbee rules was not agreed by some few countries. The reason being Hague-Bisbee rules, they felt it was more towards the carrier. It was partial towards the carrier. So the Hamburg rules was more towards the owner, shipper or receiver of the cargo. So when these rules, which is passed in the convention, adopted by the local government, that law is called Carriage of Goods by Sea Act. Suppose it's not mandatory or compulsory for any country to adopt the Carriage of Goods by Sea Act, but the carrier dominates shipping. Suppose the carrier says, I would like to follow Hague-Bisbee rules, and the shipper and the receiver say, no, we would like to follow Hamburg rules, or in my country that we don't follow any of these rules, then the carrier have the right to put a clause in the contract of carriage saying paramount clause mentioning that that me being the carrier, suppose the ship is registered in Singapore or Denmark, he will say my country has adopted Carriage of Goods by Sea Act as per Hague-Visby rules. He will put it on the bill of lading, very clearly a paramount clause mentioning that even though the cargo being carried may reach a port where there is no law regarding carriage of goods by Sea Act, he will put a paramount clause mentioning very clearly this cargo will be carried as per paramount clause. That is, for example, he is following Hague-Visby rules and the shipper and the receiver agreed to that. Only if they agree, that cargo will be carried by the carrier. Carrier, in case he is not agreeing to it, he will simply refuse to load the cargo. So he has the option. So suppose a country does not have a Carriage of Goods by Sea Act, or he follows only one of these acts, the carrier has got every right to refuse the cargo based on Hague-Visby rule which he follows. In case they want to carry, then they have to agree according to the paramount clause. For example, suppose this carrier is Hague-Visby rules which is incorporated in their Carriage of Goods by Sea Act, then he has got every right to do so. All this contract of carriage is basically Hague-Visby rules. If you see the reverse side of the bill of lading is the receipt, non-negotiable document which is carried, which is given as a receipt by the carrier to the shipper, and later on this bill is transferred to the receiver after the cargo loaded, and based on the payment between the receiver and the consignee is agreed, this bill of lading is transferred to the receiver to mean that the ownership of the cargo is transferred to the receiver. So all the rules which is mentioned, if you see the reverse side of the bill of lading, you will see all the rules and regulations which is basically will be Hague-Visby rules. Or if it is Hamburg rules, it will be mentioned. Like I told you earlier, it's a contract between the shipper, receiver and the carrier. So in case the carrier does not want to follow, he can always refuse the cargo. Now these are all the various clauses which is mentioned. Seaworthiness. With regard to seaworthiness, Carriage of Goods by Sea Act, the carrier, the ship should ensure the ship, once it leaves the port, is seaworthy on the high sea. That means, for example, the hatch covers are watertight, weathertight, and the cargo lashings have been taken, the ship's engine is working in order, enough fuel for the voyage plus additional fuel, with all the certificates valid, then the ship is considered seaworthy. Carrier also got the responsibility of properly and carefully loading the cargo, handling the cargo, take care of it from voyage from A to B, and make sure it is delivered in the same condition as it was loaded. If there is any damage to cargo, then the receiver can take a claim from the carrier if any of this obligation was not followed. Then it is the duty as per Carriage of Goods by Sea Act, the carrier has to issue a bill of lading to the shipper of the cargo, which comes under another act called Bill of Lading Act. Carrier has got some rights and immunities. For example, he can deviate from the planned voyage from A to B in case any other vessel is in distress, as per SOLAS, as per IMO, as per Merchant Shipping Act of the flag state. He can deviate to that other ship which is in distress and provide all assistance. And if there is a delay, in this case to deliver cargo, the carriers take immunity in this Carriage of Goods Sea Act with regard to the contract between the carrier and the shipper. Even the other liability other immunity which the carrier is got is in case of act of God, in case of any fire, in case of strike in port, or if the ship gets arrested due to various other reasons in the port, that is ship is stop from sailing, you do have immunity with regard to delivery of cargo. In case dangerous goods, as per Carriage of Goods by Sea Act, if the undeclared dangerous cargo, if found on board the ship, the master or the carrier got every right to discharge the cargo in the next port without giving any reasons, because this cargo, dangerous cargo, has got to be declared by the shipper. So basically, to come to end of this chapter is Carriage of Goods by Sea Act is basically Hague-Visby rules. So if you see the bill of lading, because the cargo is being carried by various carriers of various nationalities and flag state, the bill of lading basically got the current world, the majority of the shipping companies have a BL which states very clearly that they are following Hague-Visby rules. So these are all the rules and regulations. So whenever a shipper is loading the cargo, in case of claim, he has to, when you sign a bill of lading which is signed by the carrier and again received by the shipper, agreed and received by the shipper and again transferred to the receiver, your whole carriage of cargo from the time of loading and from the time it is delivered comes under the bill of lading, which on the reverse side of the bill of lading is where your Carriage of Goods by Sea Act, to put it very common, you always find what is mentioned at the back of bill of lading is Hague-Visby rules. Then the latest one, coming to end of this topic, the latest rules which may be incorporated is Rotterdam rules, which is still in the pipeline. It has not been agreed, only about few countries, maybe 3 or 4 have agreed or ratified this Rotterdam rules, and we have to wait and watch regarding Rotterdam rules. Thank you very much.